Hey, Coach Tim, Spider Cave Studios, Torrance, California, amongst the Spider Cave wall of many varied, a cacophony of allegiances from youth sports over the years. I want to share something with you today that is, in my book, pretty profound. Made me have a lot of ahas of late. Uh, Not only personally, but from a business standpoint, potentially a game changer. Once you understand the principles of it, most people will never bother. Most people who teach it in a way that really doesn't explain things. So I'm going to attempt to explain the idea of priming. So dramatic. Priming is a way that we sort of pre remind ourselves of things. It is a pre reminding of things. So, what do I mean by that? I say pre reminding because through time, certain things happen, imagined or real, that will remind us of something. Example, when we buy a car, drive it off the lot, and inevitably, a part of our brain called Broca will spark up and show us all the cars that are just like ours that we just bought that everybody else had the same idea. It's almost like it happened that day. That's an idea, sort of the same principle. So, what I want to do is show you a real example. I watched a movie, a documentary on YouTube the other day. Darren Brown, Derren Brown, on luck. I think it's How to Create Luck or something like that. You can find it. It's like 40-minute documentary. It starts off, it's prefaced with a demonstration of primacy. He doesn't call it that, but that's exactly what it is. Whereas he goes to a bar, the way it opens up, goes to a bar and says, hey, who wants me to read their mind? And so somebody finally volunteers. He takes them through a series of questions that we are to believe, and the target is to believe, that is trying to do this Svengali kind of mind meld with this guy to figure out where and what he's thinking about. When in reality, he's actually dictating to him what to think about because he primed him the whole day. He ends up telling us and showing us, whereas it ended up being about a musical, a song by the Verve, and throughout the day, this target has been passing people up, either humming it, singing it, whistling it, even a violinist playing it, etc. Right? So, as he's getting led very artistically towards this path, it was very likely he was going to answer what Darren wanted him to. That's priming. So, what does that have to do with the press tea in China? Well, we can often influence the way that somebody thinks when it comes time to think on a particular theme by using priming. And it doesn't have to sound so manipulative, but if there was a Will Smith and Margot Robbie movie not too long ago, a few years ago, that used the principle of priming. I'll try to find the video. I looked before, I couldn't find it, of that scene, and they went through a whole elaborate thing of making it so that this guy that Will Smith is betting against would bet the number, I think it was the number 60. And so all kinds of various ways were used throughout this target's experience so that he would come up with the number 60 when it came time for him to bet on 60. So made it a pretty good bet for Will Smith. But let's talk about this in a little bit more complicated means, a little bit more esoteric means, where uh, in the documentary, the the uh, the town that they did this in is like a little small village town in England, and there was a park, and there's a dog statue there, and so they inserted this, what Brown calls a mythology, into the town, that this dog causes good luck. Rub his head for good luck. And so how did they do that? Well, they brought in like a fake news crew, I think it was, and asked, "Hey, what do you think about the lucky dog?" And pretty soon the lucky dog and its magic became self-evident. Okay, that's key in this, is it's evident. The evidence of belief started becoming obvious. It was no longer questioned. And so I've seen this in sales presentations before, where they'll take one concept, and if they can get the prospect to get past that concept as self-evident, as real, to accept it, then everything else is based on the previous, and then the next one is based on the last two previous concepts, so forth and so on, and you're building up a whole belief set based on bullshit. I mean, to be quite frank, and it doesn't have to be BS, but it was really was premised on BS, the one I'm thinking of. So what we look at when we see this show is a number of people that are looked at. They've created this meme, this mythology, so much so that one of the older guys in there says, "Yeah, guys have been winning for years around here because of that dog," right? And so, except in an English accent, it's not so redneck like I might have just done. And so they have this mythology now. People are starting to take opportunities. They're starting to find wins because of they risked, and they're getting lucky. Things are happening, and of course, a lot of it is staged. A lot of it is faux. A lot of it is caused. And then there's the poor butcher. The poor butcher says he's never won anything in his life. He does not win. And Darren Brown is trying to set up everything on earth for this guy to have a shot at actually winning. And it's so sad. They tried a survey, take a survey, and at the end they'll give you a surprise $20 or 20 whatever it is over there. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'll be back after lunch," and he never comes back. And they put money in front of where he was walking, under a rock, and he walks right past it. The guy was amazing. And then finally, he's out in like the middle of a farm field or something, and I think his name's Michael the Butcher. There's this big truck you've seen it with the big signs that are vertical, and it says, "Michael, call right now." And he doesn't call. And then finally, Darren follows him like everywhere he goes with this truck, and he finally decides to call, and so you got to give Darren some credit for his persistence. Well, at the end, it ends really nice. I won't spoil it, but it ends very nicely, and this guy learns a really big lesson. Now, it is television. It is a little bit of bravado and dramaticism and so forth. But the lesson in this, and some people would say, you've sparked the law of attraction and all that. I don't want to get into that woo-woo yet. But and especially because Darren Brown's an atheist. He doesn't believe in any of that energetic stuff. And so he's just showing how the power of the mind can create wins and create losses. So, like within football, I have this philosophy: winning wins and losing loses. It's hard to stop a losing culture. You have to blow that stuff up. It's hard to stop a losing culture in your mind. And I'm here to share with you that I have had a losing culture in my mind for the last few years because I've been under extreme stress with taking care of, and worrying about my parents, and and they say you do a lot of deep diving or whatnot, perhaps after a parent dies or parents die, and so I've been really on this kind of self-discovery thing in the last 6 months since Pops left us, and so I realized, with the help of my buddy Adam, who's I did an interview with him on the podcast not too long ago. Adam, the hypnotist, as I like to call him, and we're sitting down, and he does weird stuff. He's a hypnotherapist, and pulls out a notepad, and I'm like, all right, he's going to take notes of our meeting, I guess. I don't know what's he doing today, and so finally I go, dude, what are you writing? He goes, I've written down everything, all these words. Look at these. These are your words. And I'm like, okay, yeah, those are my words. He goes, read them. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, in essence, they're in competition with each other. There's negative and there's positive words. Because this is what you're carrying around with you. And they're in battle with each other. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. And another concept, and there's, again, on the podcast, there's a whole thing on triggers and anchors. He goes, that's an anchor. That's a positive anchor, that's a negative anchor. You're in conflict. This is what you're attracting. This is kind of woo-woo stuff in the law of attraction stuff. But nevertheless, forget all that. It's what you're attracting. They're anchors because they are emotional words. Emotions are what triggers anchors. Okay? Or think of an anchor as like Pavlov's dog for the Cliff's Notes version. And that, to say that is a dishonor to us as human beings that are much more complex beings. But nonetheless, we are stimulus response creatures to emotion. And so what I learned from that whole discussion was, because he took a concept that I had brought up that somebody had said, well, Tim, you just want to win, which is a very useful belief for certain things in my world. Like, I want to win Google. I truly do. If I get stuck and can't figure out something, I'll figure it out. and it's that insatiability that makes me good at what I do for a living. But it also can cause issues in other ways. And so he went higher. He went to a higher level. I don't know NLP well enough, but I think he took it up a logical level, they would call it. And I'm not going to share with you the belief, but he loosened it so that we could talk about it. And every time he loosened it, I would get uncomfortable as he pulled apart the fabric, just enough so we can talk. And so that I have flexibility, my subconscious went, no. And I would try to anchor it back into my thinking. And he would go, damn it, Tim, stop telling stories to defend it so you can re-anchor yourself. And it took like 3 or 4 or 5 times of that where I finally realized, okay, get control of yourself and let him just talk to you. And so what I learned from that, besides dealing with the belief and the good and the unuseful things around that belief, and perhaps different ideas to embrace that would be better, is that how we get really uncomfortable when we're in a space, even though if that space isn't benefiting us. That belief is, in many ways, does not serve me. And so I wanted to fight for the right to have that belief, though. I wanted to get back to normal. I wanted to get back to comfortable. Why perhaps women who are getting beat up or hurt by their significant others, if you want to use the word significant, stay with them. They won't leave, even though they're stuck. You know, they're stuck. They're stuck. And so I was stuck. We all are in our reality called a belief. And the problem that we all have is that these are our realities that we hold on to, but they don't always serve us. So that's kind of dealing with the personal side. But the looking at it from the level of that show is that he created priming, right, for the bar guy. He created priming for the dog. The dog is a set of false memories that he installed into that town, a mythology that goes back beyond the 3 months when he started the experiment. And it went through time, and there was these mythologies that rub the dog, be lucky, rub the dog, be lucky, rub the dog, be lucky. And so to the analytical person like myself, I'm looking at, well, that's BS. You know, how do you believe in luck on a dog? Well, again, our realities are bendable anyway, right? I just demonstrated that. He loosened up a reality for me, inserted a new one. Now that's my new reality that I will defend because it's my new normal, right? And so it's the same thing with the people in that town in the UK. That guy, the butcher, could not get past his own reality. He was more committed to being unlucky than he was to trying out luck. Okay, and so you might say, yeah, but you know, it's based on BS. It's based on some dog that you rub his statue, rub its head, and you get luck. But think of it this way, maybe. So what is priming? Priming is putting into your system memories of feelings, anchors that have emotional charges to them that are hopefully positive. And so when an opportunity comes up, I'll reference back and say, oh yeah, well that's how it is. I'm driving, you know, a white Chevy Suburban, and Chevy Suburbans are everywhere. You know, because I'm a smart guy, I guess. I don't know why our brain does that, but it does it. So one of the things that Tony Robbins is somewhat famous for, and arguably he got the idea from Rex Sykes, which is power questions, asking directed questions, I think as Sykes calls it. Sykes looked at the idea of affirmations, you know, 20, 30 years ago and said, well, they don't really work because I'm kind of lying to myself. You're rich, right? You're worth $1 billion, you know, and so it's like, how good do I feel? So a presupposition. How good do I feel when I meet the woman of my dreams? Something like that, right? So it's a presupposition that it is true. And the thing is with the question, your brain has to answer it. Your brain has to answer the question. So if you ask just like Darren Brown did, he asked the questions so he would get the answer he wants. Ask yourself the questions so you get the answers you want. How great do I feel today? What could I be very grateful for? What am I grateful for? What do I love about my children? Presupposes that I love something about my children, and my brain's going to answer whether it pops into my conscious or not. And this is the part that I never got before and struggled with. It doesn't matter. It's there. I just asked it. It's there. It just came in. Okay? So now you can stimulus response and anchor to it, right? And go, yes, something like that, or yes, you know, when you ask that question. And now you could fire it every time you go yes and do that same thing, or just ask the question again. Okay, so this is a powerful thing to direct your brain from any sort of negativity. And when you understand the entire concept of the prime, that you're, what I was just doing was priming myself. I'm asking you, listening to this, so I'm priming you, right? For more success at feeling grateful. And you have to feel good when you are feeling grateful. You have to feel wealthy. You have to feel abundant. What you focus on expands, right? So asking yourself these questions are a powerful way of doing things. What if you were to anchor them to reoccurring instances throughout your day, like turning on the light? Anchor gratefulness or feelings of wealth to when you turn on the light. Okay, so now every time you turn on the light, you're going to turn on the switch literally to your gratitude, or to whatever feeling you want to feel. What is it that you want to feel today? So a lot of us, we are told, do the goal setting and make all these goals, and what kind. I want a car. I want a two-story house. In the cool part of town, and blah 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 blah, which is all bitching. I mean, rock on. I hope you get it, but it's all for a feeling. I want the Ferrari. Well, you want the feeling the Ferrari gives you. Now, it may be the feeling that you really, is that feeling that you want serving you. I want, 55, and I want all the 25-year-old chicks staring at me as I go with the top down along the beach, like a total douchebag, but I digress. And so there's nothing wrong with the fart, but what is your intent? Is it serving you? Is it a belief? Is it a feeling that you really want? Now, maybe you want to feel that those, good because those girls are looking at you, but maybe there's an underlying feeling that's a little bit more useful than that you need to get healed or felt, that's deeper than that. So go into that. So what I'm trying to do is get you to understand that it's all about feelings. We do things for feelings. We justify it with logic. If you've been in sales or marketing, you know that, but you probably only know it from a very shallow academic kind of way. And so what I'm trying to do is add a little bit of texture, a little bit of depth to this way of thinking, because if you understand how to use this stuff to direct your own brain, to have control of your brain and what you're thinking and what you're focusing on that really matters to you, then you're able to do that through your marketing. You're able to create primes. You can create prime. What if you can create primes for your relationship, for your children, so that there's a set of memories that are there, that it's obvious that you love them. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. It's a foregone conclusion that your business is the best for the job. It's why I love SEO so much. One of my main offerings in my business, because SEO, unless you go through all this, it's hard to really explain the value in these terms. But it's really about priming. It's really about priming. Years ago, somebody called me, and I said, "Well, golly, I mean, to this day, he's my business. We do business together. I got to call him tomorrow, in fact." We met about 10 years ago. He calls and I said, "So, how'd you find me?" "I don't know. You're everywhere." It's the right answer. Okay. Ubiquity. So you everywhere. And so that's what priming is. If I'm going to Facebook and, I see Tim O'Keefe in an SEO forum, or Tim O'Keefe in some sort of industry related to your industry, and I'm in there talking about marketing, and then you do a search for SEO or whatever in torrents, or for real estate or dentists or whatnot, and you find Spider Juice, and there's Tim again. Okay, all of a sudden now I look bigger than I ever was. Very similar priming, sort of kind of, to the rule of seven, which is you have to see something 7 times before you actually will purchase. So if you want to buy a car, you hear from your neighbor that the I don't know, the Toyota Camry is reliable. It's a great car. The new one is really fuel efficient. And then you see a TV commercial, then an advertisement on the internet, and so forth and so on 7 times. And you really want a real fuel efficient car. It's not like, if you don't want it, you're not going to buy it. But this will push you over the edge, is the rule of seven. And priming is somewhat similar, except really it's subtle. It's not in your face marketing like the rule of seven. It's more subliminal. In fact, it was first introduced to me when debating the effectiveness of subliminal advertising, where you've seen in the 30s they flashed onto the movie screen, buy popcorn, buy Coca-Cola or something like that, and the sales skyrocketed, and all they did was flash it for a half second or something. The conscious mind couldn't even see it. So, people will say you can, mask in words into different like media and through audio below the perception of the ear. You can mask it through graphics. For instance, in that little football helmet right there, it says, "Tim O'Keefe's the greatest dude ever." No, I'm just kidding. That's we sold those posters in high school. I still have this one. And that is my schedule from my senior year in high school. So anyway, but that would be an idea of subliminal advertising if it actually was Tim O'Keefe's the greatest guy ever in there. But so my mentor said, well, subliminal has its uses perhaps, but really priming is where the real power is in these kind of things. And so that's what Darren Brown does. But what I think the giant lesson of the Darren Brown video or documentary is that to a logical person, the dog is not logical. It's very irrational. But it's irrational to believe that the dog's going to bring you luck, but you're still acting on it. You're still acting on it as if. And is it the as if that causes it? Now, if you want to go all woo-woo and law of attraction, you can say it also that belief causes emotions, which puts out energy that causes attraction back to you. And I'll argue that I tend to believe that. But you don't need to even go there. The belief causes actions that cause opportunities. And so what can we do in our own marketing that creates and sets up opportunities that will likely cause connection to you through your marketing? So let me just leave that, and if you have an interest, we'll start exploring some of that stuff through my future communications with you. I appreciate you hanging in there. Hopefully this helps your business. Hopefully it helps you. There's a lot to be said for just self-anchoring or self-questioning yourself nonstop on the positive questions. What do you want to feel? What are the most important things you want to feel today? That seems like a weird question, but it really isn't. I mean, because everything we do is to get a feeling anyway. So shouldn't we be asking that? Shouldn't we be considering it? Shouldn't you be asking your client that? Now, they may not, be able to answer it directly because it's a weird question and it's requires a little bit of rapport, but you as a professional need to go there. What is it that you want to feel? Now, Kenner Cleveland gives a methodology that develops a way to get to a person's most valued or highest values and criteria when they're endeavoring into whatever it is that they're doing or that you want them to do. So that's another podcast you can go through. Tons of good stuff on here that are in the context of football, partially because I'm a football coach, but also partially because I wanted to drag these guys out of their normal worlds where they have to actually maybe think a little bit about the context. But the reality of it is the context, what I realize is they're not changing their spiel just because it's about football coaching. It's true in any context. So, and I find that I learn better when I'm not feeling like I'm doing something totally academic. Like, if I'm going to teach 1 + 1 = 2. When I was a kid, I literally said this to my parents. I will never use this. Like in second grade, little Timmy, little smart aleck. I'll never use this. But if the person would have said $1 plus $1 equals $2, I would have been bought in. So that's just the way I think. I like to teach that way, even when I'm coaching football, is to break it out of the context so it kind of generalizes across, all the different things that we do. So hopefully, this is useful for you. And if you want to delve into it a little bit, I'd be happy to, because it's pretty fascinating to me. Once all of the chips kind of added up and all of a sudden the synapses in my brain kind of connected, I'm like, ooh, this relates to that, and that relates to this, and this, this is cool. And so there's a lot of cool things we could be doing for our relationships, for ourselves, and for our business. So, hey, if you want to play, let's play.